Hey everybody, welcome back to lesson 3. It's Pam and
Hello,
Jihan,
hello.
and we're excited to be here with you today, taking you on the next step on your journey in Wild Biz School. And today we're going to be talking about how to actually create a campaign so that you're sharing in social media.
This is a doozy. This one's like
It's a
really
big topic.
like this is a really great topic, and we're trying to really massage this a lot for the new person who's coming in, but obviously the information applies to anybody. But how do you create a campaign? Maybe Pam, let's talk about like some of the idea. I know we're going to have a chat, a straight talk chat about this, about like how long it takes, but why would somebody create a campaign? What is a campaign? Why would someone create it instead of just going and posting something?
Okay, so instead of just throwing stuff at the wall, we find that it's best in business to be extremely mindful and intentional so that you're getting the results you desire. If you haven't been getting the results you desire, whether you're brand new or you've been around for forever, it may be that it's not making sense to your audience.
It's confusing. That's it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's all over the place. So when we talked about building your brand in lesson 1 and 2, and you're going to see these concepts keep building on one another and expanding as we go along in this Wild Biz School. When we go back to building your brand, well, building your brand has to be intentional. You know, who is your audience? What is the journey? Now we're going to talk about what is the journey you're taking them on? What is the educational journey? Where are you adding value to their life? Because people are going to know, like, and trust you, which equates to following you, to listening to you, and then buying from you if you're taking them on an interesting journey. If it's a complete, storyline that you're sharing. And there's ways to do this in social media. The one thing is that you have to keep in mind that you're talking to one person. When you're writing your posts, when you're writing your different graphics, and you're doing all of your things, it wants to be you and them, one-on-one. This is how you make that stronger connection.
Absolutely.
Okay.
So one of the things to think about when you're creating this campaign now is, like Pam said, like, what is the purpose of this campaign? Now, you might automatically default to sales. That's not actually where you start out. Usually it's in brand recognition, somehow gaining that trust, gaining that credibility. And it doesn't mean you have to be an expert in it. In fact, you don't have to be an expert at all. And people find that more relational if you're not an expert. It could just be your own personal journey that kind of triggers, not the right word, but kind of touches somebody else and their story as well. So eventually, yes, of course, it's to lead to sales. You're not in business unless you are selling. You're just,
Right.
something.
Yeah, that's that. Yeah, like,
let's be clear about that.
Right. But you don't want to lead with the sales. And what we hear all the time is, I don't want to be salesy. So don't be salesy. Be service driven. Educate, educate, educate. Whet their appetite. Let them want to come to you. Let them be ready when you post, that
sales call, that call to action.
that let them already know why they want it. Like, educate them really well on why they want it. And here's the thing. If you're brand new today and this is like day 1 for you, and you've jumped in and you're going through everything because you're hungry to get started and excited and motivated to kind of get out there, you found something new and you want to tell everybody about it, we're going to jump into how to create a campaign around that. But remember, people like to learn alongside of you. You don't need to go out there and be the expert right away. Like, if you jump out of the gate on a brand new topic, right? Like a brand new path, like a brand new thing, and you're already claiming to be the expert on it. Well, I'll tell you, this just happened to me the other day with someone who started something else that was like nutritional based. and all of a sudden she's the expert and it's day one, and like it's around like weight loss, and she's already the coach day one, not even having lost 1 pound, and now she's the expert coach. And I'm going, but I just saw you do 20 other diets over the last 25 years that I've known you. Like, how did you just become this expert and you're just trying to sell something? Like, it's so apparent. So don't be afraid to say, hey, you know what? I don't know how this is going to be. I'm just starting out. I want to take you on the journey. You know, like, that's a good way to be. It's authentic. It's real.
Authentic.
It's transparent. All of those things, right?
It goes back to that authenticity conversation that we have. And believe it or not, that's what's going to build your credibility, because they're going to see
More
you're
than
not
anything.
perfect at it, but you're learning along the way. And this is what you've learned. And this is what you want to share. So when you're thinking in terms of campaign, it's not that like one and done post. And you might have those occasionally, of course, especially if you're out and about and you want to show something or whatever, you have those. But we're talking about expanding upon that for your specific to your business. There's a lot of work that happens in the beginning of your, well, throughout your business. I'm going to say in the beginning, but when you're creating a campaign, there's a lot of work that happens in the beginning of it. So then you think of all the different pieces and then it just flows. A great example of this is I was watching a couple of YouTube videos yesterday of people building this biodome so that they could have year-round growing, right?
Right.
Which of course I want this now. So I'm like, oh my God. So I'm watching them build these things. And in both of these videos, they were talking about the absolute importance, as you know, just even in building a house, right? Of getting the foundation right. Like every little measurement is crucial. And it takes a long time to do all that, to build out all that. And then when the actual walls and whatever of this biodome, it was like, wow, we just did that in like no time at all. It's like crazy how fast that was. But the point was, had they not done that, those walls would have gotten up. They would not have fit together in this dome. It's this geometric dome that they literally would not have been able to fit all the components together had they not paid such close attention to the foundation. So what we're talking about today is the foundation, right? The walls going up and everything coming together. That's when it translates to more engagement in your post. It translates to sales. You are in business. It'll translate to sales. It'll do all that, but you have to have a little bit of patience. I know you probably feel like you've been very patient for a long time now, but a little more patience so that you could build out a campaign so that when it comes time for it to actually be executed, the walls just go up and everything flows together. That's what you're looking for there.
So let's talk a little bit about what an actual campaign is and what one looks like, because we're throwing around again this business words, terms, and not everybody may even know what a social media campaign is, or even an email campaign, or even a text campaign, right? Like whatever is that pathway of communication that you're connecting and being with people. You know, so a campaign really is a mindful, it's very simple. It's a mindful, intentional path, stepping stones that you're taking people on. So you're introducing an idea, you're introducing a product, you're introducing some concern that you're addressing, and you drip, drip, drip information. You're not throwing out everything into one post, but you're actually breaking up your posts in a mindful way over time. Now that time, it could be very short. Some campaigns can run all throughout a day. Some campaigns can run throughout a week. Some campaigns could run for a month or 2 months or even longer, right?
Some
like
have a year campaign.
Building it out.
This is the year of whatever.
Whatever. But you could think of it in the simplest terms as a theme, something that lights you up, that you're excited about learning about, that you're excited about overcoming, that you have some juice or energy around it beyond just the sale, right? And maybe you're excited about the sale. Maybe it is the sale. Maybe it is a premium starter bundle. And this has changed your world. Like, this is where you started. This is what's brought you in. This is what's, just change every room in your house, everything that your entire family is doing. And that's what lights you up. So, and you just know in your heart of hearts that you could help anybody, anywhere, if you could just make that connection with them and educate them on the hundreds of different ways they could use a premium starter bundle.
So I want to stop you here because I don't know if other people heard this. Pam just gave you the framework of a campaign. Okay. That's how much it just rolls off, Pam. So let's just use that as an example first. And if we have other examples to help you build out longer, but let's say you just found out Young Living is going to do a 10% sale on a premium starter bundle, right? Now, let's say it's on the oils bundle and it has several different oils in it, and you had some sort of, it had some sort of impact on your life or not, but presumably it may have had some sort of impact. So now this is not necessarily for the first person. This might be for someone who's already had the premium starter bundle, right? So instead of posting up, hey, Young Living has 10% or 15% off this premium starter bundle, go get it. Here's my link. No, it's not. It's
just
not
stop 1 second, because everybody has done that at some point in their career. And I
Me
just
too.
want you to take a moment and think, how many responded? How many kits did you sell from doing that? How many people reached out to you that were brand new, that you hadn't already been in a conversation with, that they weren't already sitting on the fence for forever, waiting for a sale or a discount code?
Right.
You've already had them in a campaign.
Now, here would be something different.
We can't count them.
One of the oils that's in a premium starter bundle is lavender, right? So instead, let's say that you turn around, instead of posting, hey, this is 10 or 15% off. I forgot what I said in the beginning, percentage off. What if you turned around and said, before lavender, I was having trouble getting a good night's sleep, but this really helped me calm my mind and calm my body enough so that I could sleep well. And there's something very welcoming to me. I also have found that it's great for my skin. I have loved the effects. I love that it's one of the multi-tools. It's the multi-tool of health. I love that I could use this in so many different ways, and it has these specific benefits. I'm obviously not naming all the benefits, but it's had these specific benefits, with me. So now you're telling a story, and that's just one thing within the premium bundle, right? You're just telling the story about that. By the way, if anyone's interested in this, I have more to tell you. Now, I typically wouldn't do that in the first post. I would not put a call to action in the first post. I would do especially if I don't have any established relationships within this, realm. I would do one on lavender, and then maybe if let's say it's a 24-hour sale, I would do, or just 72-hour sale, doesn't matter. You space them. So you have one on lavender, you have one on, I don't remember all the oils in the previous starter bottle. So
like a lemon, maybe a peppermint,
lavender, whatever, peppermint, thieves. Like now you're starting to build out, these are the ways that I'm using all this. So then when you get to the point of the call to action to where you're going to do that, and you're going to put your link in there that says, as we taught you how to do wish list links, right? So you put your link in there, or just even a deep link in there, that people have already gotten all of this comment about it. It takes on average 4 to 6 times for somebody to see something before they really start to pay attention. Okay. In some, I think the statistics were up to 12 times or more. So depending on what it is you're looking at. So I don't ever expect that one post to ever do something for me. I mean, it's great if it does, but that's what I'm looking at. And this is very much in alignment with what Gary Vaynerchuk in his book, Jab, 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 Right Hook, right? That's what he talks about. It's the constant feeding of value. So when you get to the point of a call to action, now people are ready. They know what you're talking about. They say, oh my gosh, I could get all of this and it's 10% off or 15% or whatever the deal was, right? I get all of this at a discount too. Now I know why, I know how I relate to it. I know all that stuff. So that would be an example of a quick campaign, like Pam had just started out saying, thinking of all those different components and how to tell your story within that, which we're going to address in a moment too. So I didn't mean to interrupt you, Pam, but that was just such a great example of watching.
Like, if there's a promotion, what is the better way to share a promotion? It's still by building a campaign, not by just sharing the promotion in one post. Now,
Unless you've already been doing that, unless you already have an established feed of things that are doing that, then you could throw that in as a right hook. But if you're just starting and no one, and all you do is post what you eat every day and what your dog or cat looks like, and then suddenly you're like 10% off on this kit, people are like, they're going to think your account was hacked. They're not even going to realize you meant to do that. They're going to think your account was hacked.
Yeah. Yeah. So especially just starting out, right? Or they're just it's gonna look like the thing again that everybody tells us they don't want to do, which is, I don't want to be too salesy. Well, that's a topic for a whole other conversation.
It's sales.
And we'll do that in straight talk.
Sales. Right.
We're in the business of sales, but that's not the good way to, that's not the kind of sales you want to be doing.
Right. You want good sales, not bad sales. Exactly.
Yeah. We want to teach you or guide you to those things that actually allow you to build your brand, to be more of service, to feel really good about what you're doing, to give that top level concierge service to your clientele.
Now, let's say you have an education group, a health education group, or a product education group. If you've been with Young Living for a while, if you haven't, maybe it's just going to be a health education group, right? Let's say you have that. That might be the point of your campaign too. And then at the end, if it's all people, let's say within Young Living, it's not to, yes, eventually you're going to drive up sales. Of course, you want them to know, but it's more to get them to understand what this product does or that product does, so that where it could be beneficial to them. So that's a campaign. I know people that have done campaigns on skincare line. There have been campaigns, these challenges are campaigns of sorts, right? These challenges of doing the inner beauty challenge, or doing the lymph challenge, or whatever. There's essentially are campaigns that you're actively participating in, right? So I think that those could be really beneficial. Also, if you are clear about what you're doing and how you're approaching it, or how you're bringing it to your team, if you bring something out like that, to your team. But going back to the new person, and not putting everything into one post, and also understanding why you're doing this. I mean, it's in the beginning, I believe you're really working on credibility. You're really working on your personal brand recognition, establishing yourself in this. It's going to be a lot of storytelling. And the good thing about it is it's going to take a bit for you to do that, right? So you're not you got to keep working at it, right? The more you do it, the more you practice, the better you're going to get at it. So in the beginning, you don't have an audience necessarily of 20,000 people that are looking at you as you write a post that you wish you didn't write, or that you wish you said another way. Like, this is a really good time to just practice what you're doing. So, and I don't want to forget this at this point, so I'm just going to mention this. Something that really helps me is Story Brand by Donald Miller. So if you're like, okay, but great, how do I tell my story? What is it about? What's the framework of the story? Story Brand by Donald Miller. It's a book and a podcast. I would absolutely recommend reading the book. It helps take you through the different, stages and steps of it. Jab, right hook, if I remember, does some of that too as well. It gives you some framework. But the podcast, again, this is a free resource. Like, go on to a podcast, look up Donald Miller's Story Brand. Really nice to listen to and start to get into the realm of how you're building out the story of your personal brand. You're not building out Young Living, right? That's Young Living's job to do that. You're building out your place within Young Living as a sales vehicle for you, right? But it's you. People are buying you. When people come to me personally, they want what I have. They trust me. They go to Pam. It could be a different crowd. They want what Pam has. So it's really important to start nailing down the method of how you're going to tell a story. Now, when I say nailing down, I don't mean getting perfect at it. I mean starting the practice of it. That's what I mean. You're always going to be in the practice.
You're only going to get better at it by doing it. It's going to look sloppy in the beginning. You're going to tweak. You're going to this is something that you grow, right? And that's part of the fun, is that you're constantly getting better. You're like increasing your skill set, even in storytelling. Like, absolutely. That's part of the fun of it all.
It is. And that brings up the next thing. And the point of a campaign is doing it in chunks of time. So instead of saying, okay, I have to post something, I have to post something today. And then tomorrow comes like, I have to put, what should I post today? You're building out a campaign so you get a better idea of how you want the storyline to go, right? So then you could schedule all these posts. When you schedule the posts, you get back a ton of your time because you put the work in the beginning and then it just go. Do
Yeah,
you schedule,
so
Pam?
so when you're talking about like, so before you get to the scheduling, you have to get to the creation time. So
Well, I am going to get to the
tell us
creation in a minute. I was going to get to creation. Did you schedule your post though? I'm curious if you do some post scheduling.
some post scheduling and some like I mix it up.
I do too.
I
I
mix
find
it
that
up.
it's better.
Yeah,
I find that it's better. Facebook does not like you post scheduling from
no,
anywhere
well,
outside of.
that's why I mix it up. And even with my scheduling, particularly in Facebook, what I'll do is I have a alarm set on my phone and I'll go in, if it goes off and I'm available at that moment, like I really release attachment about it. Like I don't stress about this whatsoever. But I have, reminders go off in my phone, alerts. And then at that time, if I can get in and post it real time, as opposed to schedule time, it gets a further reach. So, when it comes to what is the tool we're working with, social media, and then what are the different platforms that we're working on, this algorithm that drives everything really is a thing. It's just the way it works. It's like saying your computer works by pressing that button. Like that's it. It's not personal. It's not anything. There's just a way that it works that you want to work with it. So Facebook in particular, if it's scheduled, I'll try and get in there before it launches, copy and paste it really fast as a fresh brand new post, or I'll click like post now so that it's not going scheduled. And I see huge difference in the insights when I go into the stats and look at what is the post reach, what are the opens, all of these different things that you can see. I see a huge difference. So it's worth
Yep.
my time to do that when it fits my,
I
working
was going to
hours.
say that same thing.
If I'm at
Exactly.
dinner with my family, I'm not doing it.
Then it's
I'm
just going to
where
post.
I
and that's
am
it.
when I'm there.
I can't agree enough with this. And that's exactly how Facebook in particular works. That you
Yes.
need to be there doing it yourself. They want you literally on, think from Facebook standpoint, right?
Mhm.
They don't
want
want
me
you
on.
somewhere else. They want you on their site. Okay. So they make it so that they reward people, reward the algorithm through the algorithm. They reward you for being on their site, but you don't want to be on there all the
Right,
time.
we're gonna give you tips and hacks to get around
Right. So that's
to
what
work
I
with
do.
it.
And this is what I do the same thing as Pam. Create the post, know what you're going to do. And I'm going to show, we're going to literally show you this in a minute, right? See what you want to do. And then just go in there during that time and either hit post now on a scheduled thing so that it's right when you're doing it and it's no longer scheduled, or copy and paste. And I do the same thing, Pam. You go in there then and you copy and paste. But if you know what you want to do ahead of
time, and I missed it by a minute, I'll delete the scheduled post
delete it and put it
and
back in.
post it as fresh.
Absolutely. It makes
Yeah.
all the difference to do that for Facebook in particular.
Huge difference.
Plus, you want to be there to engage a little bit with people. You don't want to just post things and then you're ghosting. You want to be able to engage a little bit. Twitter, I'm very scheduled or fairly scheduled. I do a mix on Twitter, but I do have absolutely scheduled posts that go out on Twitter. But then I'll jump on and do some engagement with other, usually not my own accounts even, usually, or my own account. I usually go engage with other people because it's a different type of community there. So you start to learn the communities as you're doing this. But okay, let's see now.
Before we move forward, I want to touch on Facebook and Instagram. So on the Facebook too, you can't just be putting stuff out there as you're creating your campaigns. This is not, remember I talked about having a one-on-one conversation. This has to be a conversation back and forth, and it benefits you in exponential ways. So one, it's building the relationship. People know you're actually really there. Like there's nothing worse than putting up the post and never coming back and, giving a reply or giving even a like. I mean, as bare minimum as like, but replying back and forth and asking questions, you're trying to keep a conversation going because that actually gets your post seen by more people. Now in Instagram, what I want to share, and that goes across all platforms. In Instagram, you can also look at insights. go into your profile, go into your posts, go into your reels, go into your stories, look at the insights about the best times, because each of us have a best time that our audience is on and they're seeing our stuff. Remember, those storyboards go pretty quick across that top. So if someone's not on, so if you know that 8 a.m. or 9 p.m. is the time when most of your people are on, maybe that's not, the Jihan talked about this, I believe, in lesson 2. You know, maybe that's not your best time to be creative, right? Maybe that's not, but you can certainly, you know, pop something up if it was already ready to go. If you had your post drafted and saved in notes on your phone with the graphic that goes along with it in a folder that says social media, you could certainly, in under a minute, get that up there and go about your business, right?
Well,
Like,
you know what? On the flip side, I'm up, as you know, we've said many times, ridiculously early, right? It's when
ridiculously early.
that's that's when I am most creative. It's when my brain thrives. It's when I have the most silence, whatever. I write so much during that time, not only for social media, but for me personally and my
Yes.
journaling, whatever. I write during that time, and I have it in my notes. I am like queen of notes, right? So I have it in my notes so that when it comes, sometimes it's ideas, sometimes it's the full post, that things that I want to say. Or sometimes I'm charged by something and I go into my notes and I write it all out because maybe I want to address it. And I wait a little bit until I could release the charge to make sure it's exactly what I want to say and does it fit in with my brands and with my, you know, maybe I want to massage it a little bit later, but it's there. So now when I'm ready to post and I know it's the peak times for my people, or when there's an expectation that I might show up on a certain platform or whatever, then I jump in and I just grab it and copy and paste, and it takes me 2 seconds. I could do this if I'm out and about. I could do this
Yes.
from anywhere. I could just go and do it, and it takes like no time at all. I try not to do it in that way though, for clarity, because
Right.
I want to be able to engage a little bit after I post something if I need to. And if I'm out and about, if I'm with my family, that's not the ideal time for me to do that. That's not when I really want to. What happens though is that when you're posting, and you'll learn this over time, you start to create an expectation with your audience of when you may show up in a way that would look engaging, and when you may show up that you're just sharing something you want to share. Like for instance, a story, you know, a story on Instagram where I'm going to put it up there. I may not be interacting with you right now, but hey, look, this is what's happening, or whatever it is, right? So you start to learn this over time and massage it. Now, the other thing is, to be clear, I am no social media whiz. You will find out a lot of good information from other places. Let me tell you, for clarity, I have a clear intention though. Okay. So I'm not, and that is not to necessarily be a social media whiz. I find that there are people who are attached to their phones and just looking at it constantly and constantly creating content that they never look up and appreciate the moment that they are in. I do a lot of content collection without using it. And I think most social media people do this anyway. You gather a lot of content. You don't necessarily use it in that moment. However, I see a lot of people.
That's why we're talking about creating campaigns.
Right.
So
And but I
part of
see
it
also a
is,
lot of people using and on constantly. That's not a lifestyle I want.
that's not what we're talking about here.
No.
We're talking about mindfully creating it, capturing it throughout your life so you have it, and then you sit down and you schedule chunking those times. You know, maybe you have 2 or 3 hours one day, or maybe it's one day a week or one day a month when you sit. Maybe you're changing your shirt 5 times, but you're focused on creating your campaign and your social media with that intent that you're talking about, with that, storyboard that you're talking about, and how to do it. What I do want to throw in before we move further is going back to the example about showing up the same time of the day and that expectation that your audience starts to have. It is going back to losing the perfection that we talked about already in the past lesson. And maybe it's in the morning when you're getting dressed, or maybe it's when you're applying your oils, or maybe it's every morning when you're filling your diffuser. Like that could be something you do. You may not even be on. but maybe you're doing a live, or you're doing a reel, or you're doing a story, and you're literally just showing filling your diffuser every day. Like, it could be that, or maybe it's while you're getting ready. I have one gal, and I know every morning she's on there, and while she has a job, but she's really intentional about building this business. She's one of the most consistent people I see in social media, and she's literally getting ready to leave for work every morning. She's like taking you through, and she's getting herself ready on screen, but she's talking about health and wellness. She's talking about, she's
Oh my God, I love
educating the
that.
audience. I love it. And
I
she's
love that.
just, hey, here I am. I'm living my life, but you might want to try this. I drank this, or I have a sulfurzyme for that, or whatever, and that's how she's sharing and intentional in her audience. Like, when I'm up at that time, I'm like, oh, it's around 8. I bet she's getting ready to leave. And I'll like,
Right.
search her. I'll be like, what is she doing today?
And then suddenly you feel like you have a friend. We've talked about this before. You start to really connect and build that relationship and do whatever. Also, I'm not someone, and I could appreciate some of the really pretty accounts. I think we've talked about this before.
Oh.
I'm not a pretty account. And I'm saying all this, I still do fairly well on social media, which is like crazy to me, because I wouldn't say that I'm even that good at it. I just show up in the way I show up, and I try to be somewhat consistent in some of the things that I'm doing. So
you
guys
show up as you all the time. Like,
yeah,
when
I should, but I do show up as
you're
all the
you.
time. Yes,
You're getting you, and that's the attraction.
yeah, that's for sure. But okay, so here now, let's break it down. Let's take it just right to Young Living, right? So let's say you want to create a campaign around Young Living. So the foundational piece, like we talked about before, it's not just going to be like Young Living. Maybe the overall is a health journey. You're going on a new health journey. Let's say you're brand new and you're going to start a new health journey, right? So that would be like the overall theme of the campaign, is that you're starting a health journey. Okay. The next thing is to break it down to, there's many different aspects to a health journey, right? It's what you do in your home. It's what you do with your personal care, what you do with your nutrition, what you might do with your skincare, with your kids, with your animals, right? There's just all these different categories that fall within health journey. So the first thing you're going to do is write out, and I keep looking over here because Pam and I put a campaign together. Pam, what did it take us? Like 4 minutes? We put a whole campaign together. Nice. When you're used to doing this, you do it fairly quickly. That's why we want to give you the framework, right? So theme, health journey, because you're just starting out, say. Next thing is break down what are we talking about within a health journey? What things, right? Within a health journey. So again, your home, your personal care, nutrition, whatever. Okay. All those things. Right. Then you break each one of those out. So we're going to use this as an example today. And we did it with home. Let's say you're, starting that. And now for Young Living, a lot of the home stuff will revolve around thieves, right? So I'm going to share my screen because I just figured out how to do this, by the way. So
fun.
Yippee. I'm going to share my screen and literally show you this part. Let me just make sure that I'm open before I do that. Okay. I'm going to show you this part of it. I'm going to use LifeSteps. By the way, this is the other thing. I had no idea how to do this before. And so I decided to learn, right? That's what it comes down to. So instead of being afraid of any of this, I decided that I'm going to just learn it. So that's that. Okay, so now I'm on my phone.
Talking about learning is showing her phone screen on Zoom.
Right. I'm sorry if I wasn't specific about that.
And you do it through share screen.
To be more specific, I had no idea how to do this, but I saw other people doing it. I'm like, I have to learn how to do this because this is so much easier. Okay. So now I go here. When you sign in to LifeSteps, this is where you're at, right? So now I'm going to go to the search button and oh, look, thieves shows right up. So I know I want to do something around home. So let's say I'm going to do thieves, right? Now, just putting in thieves, 185 results where you could pull all these resources, right? These household cleaner sharing resource. Let's say I was going to start with that, right? Look at the information, look at the videos, the Instagram stories, thieves cleaner recipes. I mean, this is like chock full of
photos,
content reels. That is already done
stickers
for you.
To put Instagram
on your stickers, photos and reels. I mean, all of this stuff My goodness, is right. Listen, this makes me want to create a campaign around thieves just
I
for
know.
them.
Well, I'm like just thinking, my brain's already turning.
I'm like,
Like,
my
oh my
brain's
God.
going. I was like, you know what? I could do this and I could pretend I'm starting over and doing it. But look at all these gorgeous photos that you could then download. You could overlay them with whatever content you want. You don't have to be great at taking pictures. I'm not great. I really appreciate photography. I took photography. I am no good at photography. Maybe one day when I have some time to like really look at it, but right now I'm not good. So I appreciate other people being good at photography and that I could grab any of these photos just here with thieves, different, products in the thieves line, right? So now let's say one of those things is going to be because now we're in home, right? The big part is health journey. The next phase is home. The next thing after that, maybe it's going to be all the ways that you use. It's not the ways you're using your cleaner, because you could build this out too. First, it's going to be why. Why
Right.
did you even decide to do this?
And that's
And
going
then,
to be your personal story, right? Like this
yes,
is where people get to know you. What was that thing that made you? I literally have my neighbor, she just loved the smell of Thieves Cleaner.
for
And
some, it
now
just might be that, right?
it could be as simple as that, or it's that you learned about, something about the harsh chemicals that are in other cleaners, or maybe you were having, headaches and you started to do some research and maybe you've done everything else and, now you're swapping out, stuff in your home, right? Like it could be
Yeah,
whatever
look
it
at all
is
this
for you
information
start with.
too. You could, I mean, there's so much you could pull in here as to, why here, thieves products versus conventional options. Like, why are you even doing, I mean, this is all done for you. It's all in here where you could grab it as a resource. So, yeah, so there's the thieves cleaner. Maybe it's that you want to eliminate harmful chemicals. Maybe that's another post that you didn't just add something in, you also were eliminating harmful chemicals. Like Pam said before earlier, she was like getting rid of those candles and those
Right. We talked about that when
plugins.
we made the campaign. Yeah.
That's what it is. And getting rid of that. So maybe you want to do something now on your diffuser and what you're adding to you were able to eliminate this and you were incorporating the diffuser, and maybe you want to add in here's my diffuser recipe. Now you could also do that in here. You could put in diffuser recipes, and there are tons of diffuser recipes that you will find in here. My stuff is slow. Look at all these recipes that you could grab from, right? So now you're posting up a diffuser recipe but again, it's not for the sake of just throwing up a diffuser recipe. It's within the campaign of I'm on this journey now, this new journey with natural wellness, and this is the home section of that, right? So now you're within that campaign. Maybe then it goes to laundry, that you're, what you're doing with your laundry and why you're changing out there. You didn't know that those chemicals not only are so harsh for you or whatever, but also for your pets or the dryer sheets or your kids or whatever. Maybe there's a story around that. Maybe you just learned that by me saying it, right? And now you're going to go look it up and say, is Jihan really being truthful in this? I didn't even know this. Let me go look this up. And now you have information that you could say, hey, I didn't know this. This is such an easy swap out for me to do, where my clothes get clean and it's also not harmful to me. I remove the things that were harmful. Do the same thing in your kitchen. Do the same thing in your bathroom. We talked about do the same thing in your bedroom. Maybe the conversation, even when it comes to diffusing, it could be something about wanting to create a spa-like atmosphere in your bedroom. Maybe it's about better sleep. Maybe it's about respiratory. So think of all the things maybe it's about sex. Think about all the things you would do in a bedroom. Think about all the things in the kitchen, all the things in the bathroom. Now you're starting to break out a very long campaign. At this point, your mind should be reeling with ideas, right?
Yeah, you should be so excited with an abundance of things that you could be doing. And I want to share, make it a well-rounded story. Let's leave you with this. Let's make it a well-rounded story, because you don't want to be just YL all the time. Like you really want to share all the things you're doing. So if it's, maybe you found like a new sponge or something in the kitchen that you're using also, or maybe in the bedroom, like, when it comes to sleep, you're also cutting back on your caffeine a bit. you want to talk about that part of your story, right? Maybe you're hydrating really well. Maybe you stop drinking after 6, so you're not getting up to pee 12 times a night. Like, include all of the story, whatever that is. Like, because wellness journey is a well-rounded journey. And it does take, of course, these wonderful options that we have through Young Living, but it also takes your lifestyle things as well. So include those in there. Maybe you're walking, maybe you're going for a walk, take people on a walk. Like, do you understand what I'm saying? Like, it has to be well-rounded picture. Don't leave out all the other things you're doing to the exclusion of just why out all the time.
It
People
used to be
wanna-
like even 1 in 5 posts, but along the lines of what you're saying,
Yeah,
Pam,
but I think even
I
now
think
it's
putting it
changing.
even inside the post is,
Yeah.
like you said, is important to talk about it more holistically. It's, first of all,
Yeah.
it's likely more accurate and authentic, you
Yeah,
know, and
yeah.
it doesn't feel like you're in constant sales mode with every post, which you shouldn't be. So I totally agree with that too.
Yeah, yeah. And bring in your other passions as well. As you're building your brand and you're sharing and you're creating, your campaigns, bring in your other passions. Maybe you love hiking and like you're talking about that. Maybe you're actually sharing about things while you're walking down a trail. And maybe you don't like to be on camera, so you're actually videoing the trees or something while you're walking, right? Like, instead of yourself and your voiceover or something. But
I
mix it
love
up.
that. I always think how I have to do that and do it more of it, because I believe I'm on camera all the time and I don't enjoy being personally on camera all the time. I'm like, why would you want to look at me when you could be looking at that, which is so much more interesting? I walk that fine line between being personal so you can see me, but also this is so much more interesting to look over here,
Yeah.
to see that. So I have to remember that. Thank you for saying that again, that, just even record and speak into something. It's not always the visual. Sometimes it's just the audio of you being present there as well.
And
You know what?
if you're doing audio, always put captions on, because as you know, if you're like me, the sound on my phone is off 98% of the time. So everybody on social media is not necessarily listening, especially if they're like, on there and there's other people around. So you want those auto-generated captions on your screen on everything that you do. Okay.
Yes, I'm a big caption person. I don't listen to audio. I just read it. So, okay. So action, we're going to leave you with action steps. Grab,
Yes.
a resource, or like get into, to LifeSteps. If you have, again, for those who are just customers, it's free. It's free. Just go in there. If you're building and you want more pro features, then you would upgrade it. It's very cost effective. It sounds like we're sitting here selling LifeSteps. We make nothing from LifeSteps. I just think it's such a great resource.
And it's a free resource.
And it's free for those who just tap
app.
into it. Yeah, I just love
through
it.
your app store.
Right. I just go there and it's such a great resource. Tag us in it, by the way. We want you to create a week campaign,
Yeah.
or whatever works for you, but we're giving you parameters so you don't have to think about that part either. Figure you're going to create a 1-week campaign. 1 week could be 5 days. It could be 6 days. There should be, in my opinion, also a rest day, because you are modeling that. I know that there are people that are on social media 7 days a week and think that if there's any silence whatsoever in social media, the world will come crashing down around them. That's not true. Okay. That is not true. Have some downtime, have some rest time, have all of that stuff. So, so create a week-long campaign. Just start it out and like using the framework we said, the basics, and then breaking it down further.
Pick a topic, pick one thing, grab stuff out of LifeSteps or wherever. Make it easy for you, but tag both myself and Jihan in that, so that we can support your posts, that we can
or even send it to us privately.
Yeah, or privately, however you want.
If you don't want to tag us, send it us privately so we know to go over to wherever your page is or whatever platform you're on, so that we could go there and support your posts. Make sure that you do that, and we appreciate the same in return. Follow us, or go into our social media.
If you feel inclined, yeah,
just just kind of supporting each other in all this, that would be great. Also, I will also put up here the different ways that if you wanted to schedule some posts, again, in Facebook, if you're going to schedule, you should schedule within Facebook, but you should also try to be on and just really post. Otherwise they just hammer the posts in terms of the algorithm. It's terrible. You could get away with more of that on Twitter with posting. I use Hype Fury now, and I've used Hootsuite for a long time, and then I stopped using it, but they could disseminate information to many different platforms. That's another one. There's so many that have come along over the years. Really, the biggest thing is what we said, just find a rhythm of when you're going to know what your campaigns are. That's what I do in the beginning of my week. I really start to think about what kind of themes, what I really want to talk about this week, so that I make sure I always have content ready and available. And then listen, life organically happens, right? So there's times where I'm like, oh, I want to capture this and I'm going to put this up. I will do that. But I always at least have something that's ready for me to communicate and to talk about that I want to do. So
if you're ever struggling for a theme, you could always look at the promotions that Young Living puts out monthly, because those are very seasonal and there's always a lot of information about them. And you can actually educate on those. Not that they're promotional items, but you would always be safe if you don't really know all the product lines yet, or you're not sure what would be appropriate right now in this season. You could go with the promotional products, pulling out of LifeSteps different information on each of them. And then down the road, when you do a call to action, say, hey, if you were to get started, you would get X, Y, and Z for free this month. Well, as a gift was purchased, well, they already know why they want it, right? They've already heard of it before. So it just also makes sense if you're, not sure. If you're like, I don't know what I talk about, start with that.
How about the desk reference? I used to use the desk reference also. I would teach classes around the desk reference. Just take it, open it up, read about anything.
And now talking about the Essential Oil Desk Reference, which is an amazing book, and it's also an app that's available through Life Science Publishing.
You know what? I'm going to put a link down here in the description. So if you guys don't have the desk reference, you know what we're talking about and where to find it also. So anyway, thanks, Pam. This is always good. Always a pleasure.
Always good.
And thank you guys for joining us. Love it.
We'll see you in lesson 4.
Love it. Bye, guys.